Noah as Survival Diary, Page 1. Rule 1. On Wall Street, if you are not a shark, be a salted fish. Float quietly, do nothing. And whatever you do, absolutely do not cross paths with the male lead. My heart was pounding so violently against my ribcage that I was genuinely afraid it might crack a bone. I opened my eyes, gasping for air, as if I had just been pulled from the bottom of the Hudson River. The air around me tasted like dusty paper and cheap printer ink. Blinking against the harsh, flickering fluorescent light overhead, I found myself slouched on a rolling chair inside a suffocatingly cramped file room. Where was I? A second ago, I was in my tiny, overpriced Brooklyn apartment falling asleep while reading a ridiculously dramatic corporate romance novel titled Wall Street Overlord. I rubbed my temples trying to soothe a sudden piercing headache. As my fingers touched my face, a flood of foreign memories violently crashed into my brain. Board meetings, financial projections, the towering glass facade of the Vance Empire building in the heart of Manhattan. And a name. Noah Hayes. Wait, Noah Hayes. Ice-cold dread spread through my veins, freezing me in place. Noah Hayes wasn't just my name in this bizarre new reality. He was a character in the novel I had just been reading. Specifically, he was the ultimate cannon fodder, a pathetic, overly ambitious junior assistant whose only purpose in the plot was to be ruthlessly crushed to demonstrate the terrifying power of the male lead, the CEO of Vance Empire, Julian Vance. According to the book, Noah was a notorious corporate climber. He sucked up to management, stole credit from interns, and desperately tried to get noticed by the executives. His grand finale. In exactly Chapter 3, during a high-stakes board meeting, Noah attempts to serve coffee to Julian Vance to show off his dedication. Instead, his foot catches on a projector cable, and he dumps a scalding venti Americano directly onto Julian S. Bespoke's $6,000 Tom Ford suit. Julian S.'s reaction in the novel wasn't just a firing. It was a complete industry-wide blacklisting. The original Noah lost his job, his apartment, his reputation, and ended up completely ruined before the story even reached Chapter 4. I scrambled to pull my phone from the pocket of my perfectly tailored yet incredibly uncomfortable suit trousers. It was 1:45 p.m. My stomach dropped into a bottomless abyss. The quarterly executive board meeting was scheduled for 2 p.m. The coffee spilling incident was about to happen in exactly 15 minutes. History was on the verge of repeating itself, and I was strapped directly to the front of the crashing train. No, 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 I muttered frantically, pacing the length of the tiny file room. I am not getting destroyed by a fictional capitalist demon. Right then and there, standing among towering cabinets of tax records, I made a life-altering decision. I was throwing away all of this body's toxic ambition. I didn't want a corner office. I didn't want a six-figure bonus. I just wanted to survive, collect a basic paycheck, and maybe eat cheap hot dogs in Central Park on the weekends. I was officially adopting the salted fish ideology. To survive on Wall Street without getting eaten by the sharks, one must become utterly unappetizing. I needed to become invisible. First step of survival: abort the coffee mission, flee the scene. I grabbed my suit jacket, took a deep breath, and burst out of the file room. The 40th floor of the Vance Empire building was a hive of terrifying efficiency. Sleek glass walls, minimalist chrome desks, and people in expensive clothes moving with lethal purpose. Noah, a sharp voice snapped. It was Sarah, the senior floor manager, holding a cardboard tray, carrying 4 steaming cups of coffee. There you are. Take these into conference room A. Mr. Vance is arriving in 5 minutes. She shoved the tray toward me. It was the cursed Americano, the weapon of my own destruction. I looked at the coffee, then at Sarah, and did the only logical thing a desperate man could do. I dropped my briefcase, clutched my stomach with both hands, and let out a loud, agonizing groan. Oh God, I wailed, bending over and squeezing my eyes shut to squeeze out a fake tear. Sarah, I can't. The street meat. I ate a halal cart hot dog on 6th Avenue, it's rebelling. I think my appendix is exploding. Sarah took a massive step back, her expression twisting in pure disgust. Gross. Noah, don't you dare throw up on this carpet. Go to the bathroom. I'll take the coffee. Thank you. Tell my family I love them. I yelled dramatically, abandoning the coffee tray and sprinting in the opposite direction. I didn't head for the bathroom. I headed straight for the executive elevators. If I could just get to the lobby, I could hide in a nearby Starbucks until the meeting was over. The coast was clear. The marble hallway was empty. Freedom was just 20 feet away. I checked over my shoulder to make sure Sarah wasn't following me completely, failing to look at what was directly in front of me. A loud impact sounded as I crashed violently into what felt like a solid wall of pure muscle wrapped in expensive cashmere. The collision knocked the wind completely out of my lungs. I stumbled backward, barely managing to keep my balance. An intoxicating heavy scent immediately filled my senses, rich sandalwood, mixed with a sharp cold hint of citrus. It smelled like wealth power and absolute control. I'm so sorry I wasn't looking, I began to stammer, rubbing my bruised forehead as I looked up. The words died instantly in my throat. Standing before me was a man who looked like he had been sculpted from ice and shadows. He was at least 6'3", wearing a flawless charcoal three-piece suit. His dark hair was meticulously styled, framing a jawline sharp enough to cut glass. But it was his eyes that made my blood run cold. They were a striking, piercing gray-green, analytical, utterly devoid of warmth, and currently staring down at me as if he were examining a particularly annoying insect on his shoe. Julian Vance, the male lead, the overlord. My brain completely short-circuited. I had dodged the coffee, but I had body-slammed the CEO in the middle of the hallway. The result was going to be exactly the same. He was going to fire me. He was going to ruin me. Name! Julian demanded, his voice a low, terrifying rumble that vibrated through the silent hallway. The original Noah would have groveled. He would have cried, begged, and kissed Julian's Italian leather shoes. But I was a salted fish now. And when a fish is caught, what does it do? It plays dead. I looked directly into Julian Vance as terrifyingly beautiful eyes let out a soft, dramatic sigh, let my eyes roll to the back of my head, and let my knees give out. I collapsed entirely, faking a dead faint right there on the pristine marble floor of the Vance Empire. Noah's Survival Diary, page 14. Rule 2. The ancient proverb claims the most dangerous place is the safest. The ancient proverb is absolute garbage. The most dangerous place is the CEO's office. Hide in the basement if you must, but never go up. Faking a dead faint in front of a billionaire CEO was admittedly a high-risk maneuver, but as I lay on the plush leather cot in the Company S medical bay an hour later, savoring a complimentary juice box, I considered it a massive tactical victory. I had successfully avoided spilling coffee on Julian Vance. I hadn't been fired. The plot was safely derailed. Or so I foolishly thought. My glorious victory parade was cut short when the head of HR, a woman with a smile as warm as a New York blizzard, marched into the clinic. She didn't hand me a termination slip. Instead, she handed me a crisp, embossed envelope. "Congratulations, Noah," she said, though her tone suggested she was offering condolences. "Mr. Vance has personally requested your immediate transfer. You are now an executive administrative assistant, 80 floor." The juice box slipped from my hand, hitting the linoleum floor with a pathetic sound. The 81st floor, the apex of the Vance Empire, the Dragon S lair. In the original novel, the 81st floor was described as a sterile, terrifying spaceship where executives went to cry in private. Julian Vance was a notorious perfectionist, widely rumored to possess a severe case of obsessive-compulsive disorder. He demanded absolute symmetry, absolute silence, and absolute compliance. And somehow, my dramatic swan dive onto the marble floor hadn't disgusted him, it had intrigued him. I was the only employee in 5 years who dared to be unconscious in his presence. So much for being invisible. By Monday morning, I was relocated to a sleek chrome desk situated just outside Julian S.'s massive frosted glass office doors. The environment was suffocating. Every pen on every desk was aligned perfectly parallel. The air smelled of ozone and suppressed anxiety. I decided the only way to survive was to double down on my salted fish strategy. If he transferred me up here to torture me, I would simply become too useless to torture. I deliberately cluttered my desk. I left a half-eaten bag of almonds next to my keyboard. I applied crooked neon pink sticky notes to my monitor. I slouched in my ergonomic chair like a boneless jellyfish. I waited for the inevitable explosion. I waited for Julian to storm out disgusted by my lack of corporate aesthetic and banish me back to the basement. Instead, something entirely bizarre happened. Around noon, Julian stepped out of his office. He was wearing a dark navy suit that probably cost more than my college tuition. His cold gray-green eyes swept over the pristine bullpen, eventually landing on my chaotic desk. He paused. I held my breath, preparing for the guillotine. Julian stared at my neon pink sticky notes. He stared at the almonds. A tiny, almost imperceptible frown line appeared between his brows. But he didn't yell. He didn't fire me. He just let out a slow, quiet breath as if something tight in his chest had slightly loosened. Noah, his deep voice rumbled, sending an involuntary shiver down my spine. Bring your laptop, sit on the sofa in my office while I review these quarterly reports. Sir, to do what? I asked, bewildered. Nothing, just sit there. And so began the most confusing work dynamic in Wall Street history. Over the next 2 weeks, I realized my invisibility plan hadn't just failed, it had spectacularly backfired. I tried hiding in the printer room to play games on my phone. Julian would find me and make me stand next to the printer while it ran a 500-page document. I tried sneaking out to the open-air balcony for a nap. Julian would track me down, hand me a tablet, and tell me to supervise the wind. It took me a while to piece the puzzle together. I noticed the faint, bruised shadows under his striking eyes. I noticed how he relentlessly organized his pens by ink volume. Julian Vance suffered from chronic, agonizing insomnia and a mind that never ever stopped calculating. But when I was around slouching, yawning, completely unbothered, and devoid of any scheming ambition, the sterile perfection of his world was broken. My organic, lazy chaos was somehow short-circuiting his OCD. I wasn't a threat. I wasn't an aggressive shark trying to climb the corporate ladder. I was just a harmless, lazy fish. And the ambient, unbothered noise of my existence acted as a human white noise machine for the exhausted CEO. By the end of the month, Julian wasn't just tolerating my laziness, he was actively utilizing it as a coping mechanism. Which led me to this exact terrible moment. It was a Friday evening. Julian had dragged me along to JFK Airport for a supposed urgent weekend business summit in London. The first-class VIP lounge was dimly lit and eerily quiet. Exhausted from a week of pretending to look busy while actually doing absolutely nothing, I found a secluded plush armchair in the corner. I put in my noise-canceling earbuds, pulled my hoodie up, and instantly passed out. I don't know how long I slept. When consciousness slowly returned, the first thing I registered was warmth. A deep, enveloping, incredibly comfortable warmth. The second thing was a scent intoxicating sandalwood, mixed with a sharp hint of citrus. My eyes snapped open, my heart instantly kicking into a frantic rhythm. I wasn't leaning against the back of the armchair anymore. My head was resting squarely against a solid, muscular shoulder, pillowed by ridiculously expensive cashmere. My hand was somehow resting lightly against a firm torso. I slowly, agonizingly tilted my head up. Julian Vance was sitting right next to me. He wasn't asleep. His laptop was open on his knees, and he was calmly typing an email with one hand. His other arm was casually draped along the back of the sofa, effectively caging me in. He hadn't woken me up. He had just let me drool on his designer suit. "You're awake," Julian murmured, his voice a low, gravelly vibration I could feel through his chest. He didn't look down at me. He just kept typing, completely unfazed by the fact that his administrative assistant was using him as a human body pillow. "Mr. Vance, I am so sorry," I stammered, scrambling backward like a startled cat. Before I could fully detach myself, a sudden bright flash of light pierced the dimness of the lounge. The sound of a camera shutter clicked sharply. My blood ran instantly cold. I whipped my head around. Across the lounge, a figure in a trench coat was quickly lowering a smartphone, a victorious smirk on their face before turning and rushing out the glass doors. Panic gripped my throat. A photo of the ruthless CEO of Vance Empire looking inexplicably domestic while letting a junior employee sleep on his shoulder. My salted fish days were officially over. The storm was coming. Noah S. Survival Diary page 25. Rule 3. Sell your art, not your body. But if the ruthless CEO pays in stock options and guarantees a six-figure salary for you to literally just exist, well, a salted fish has to eat. The internet, as it turned out, was an incredibly terrifying place. By Monday morning, my face was plastered across every major financial blog, Twitter thread, and gossip column in North America. The Overlord's secret anchor, Vance Empire CEO, caught in rare moment of intimacy. Who is the sleepy mystery boy? I sat completely frozen in the center of the 80-floor executive conference room. Across the mahogany table sat Julian Vance, looking as impeccably sharp and terrifyingly calm as ever. Next to him was his head of PR, who looked like she was on the verge of a stress-induced aneurysm. Vance Empire's stock has experienced a sudden 4% fluctuation, the PR head stated, pacing the room. The board is demanding answers. Mr. Vance, your reputation has always been untouchable, strictly business. This domestic soft narrative is throwing the shareholders off. Oh, let them be thrown off, Julian replied coldly, flipping through a file. It humanizes the brand. I am going to be murdered, I whispered to myself, clutching my head. The original plot was kicking in. The shareholders were going to demand my head on a silver platter. I was going to be thrown into the Hudson River. Julian finally looked up, his piercing gray-green eyes locking onto my panicked form. He slid a thick, leather-bound folder across the table. It stopped precisely an inch from my trembling hands. Read it, Julian commanded softly. I opened the folder. The bold heading at the top read, Non-Disclosure and Public Relations Partnership Agreement. A fake dating contract. I stammered, my eyes darting over the dense legal jargon. A strategic alliance, Julian corrected. The media has already constructed a narrative. If we deny it, they will dig deeper, and it will become a chaotic scandal. If we own it, we control the story. You will act as my partner in public. In return, the media backs off my private life, and the board stops hounding me about my robotic public image. Mr. Vance, with all due respect, absolutely not. I pushed the folder back. I am just a junior assistant. I value my quiet, meaningless life. I want to be a nobody. Your salary will be increased to $400,000 a year. Julian interrupted, his voice smooth and deadly. You will have zero actual administrative duties. No spreadsheets. No coffee runs. Your only job description is to accompany me to select events and occasionally sit on my sofa while I work. I paused, my mouth clamped shut. $400,000 to do nothing. Furthermore, Julian added, leaning slightly forward, you will be moved into my penthouse for security reasons. You will have a private chef. And I will personally guarantee that absolutely no one in this company or the board will ever dare to fire you. My cannon fodder survival instinct screamed at me to run, but my salted fish soul wept tears of absolute joy. Get paid 6 figures to be a decorative, heavily guarded couch potato. I grabbed the Mont Blanc pen from the table. Where do I sign? And just like that, I sold my soul to the capitalist demon. The fake dating era began immediately. It was a bizarre, surreal experience. Julian dragged me to elite Upper East Side charity galas and high-stakes dinners. The PR team gave me an extensive list of rules, but I honestly couldn't be bothered to remember them. During a dinner where a plate of caviar cost more than my rent, I casually zoned out and let out a massive, unhidden yawn right in front of the paparazzi. I thought I'd be crucified online the next day. Instead, the media ate it up. They called me unfazed, grounded, and refreshingly unimpressed by wealth. My absolute lack of ambition was somehow interpreted as supreme confidence. But the most significant shift didn't happen in front of the cameras. It happened behind the closed doors of Julian S.'s ridiculously massive Tribeca penthouse. Julian S.'s insomnia, I quickly learned, was severe. Some nights he would pace the floorboards at 2 a.m., his mind trapped in an endless loop of stock projections and corporate warfare. But because of my contractual obligation to exist nearby, a strange routine formed. When he couldn't sleep, he would pull me out of my guest room, drag me to the living room sofa, and turn on a boring documentary. I would fall asleep within 5 minutes, and Julian would use me as a human-weighted blanket. He would pull me against his side, bury his face into my neck, and the steady, slow rhythm of my breathing would somehow act as an off switch for his hyperactive brain. I told myself it was fine. I was just a highly paid organic sleep aid. It was strictly business. Until the night of the Great Manhattan Thunderstorm. It was 3 a.m. Rain was lashing violently against the floor-to-ceiling windows. A deafening crack of thunder shook the building, waking me from a deep sleep. A moment later, there was a soft knock on my bedroom door. The door pushed open and Julian stood in the frame. He was wearing loose sweatpants and a gray t-shirt. His hair was ruffled and the dark circles under his eyes looked particularly bruised in the dim light. The cold, ruthless overlord of Wall Street looked entirely, devastatingly exhausted. He walked over to my bed in silence. He didn't ask. He just sat on the edge, slowly leaned forward, and rested his chin heavily on my shoulder. The scent of sandalwood and rain enveloped me. Julian, I whispered, my voice thick with sleep. Lend me yourself for 10 minutes. He murmured, his voice a rough, vulnerable vibration against my collarbone. His arms wrapped around my waist, pulling me into the warmth of his chest. Just 10 minutes, Noah. The noise in my head won't stop. I froze. I was supposed to be a salted fish. I was supposed to remain emotionally detached from the male lead, but as I tentatively raised my arms and slowly hugged him back, feeling the tension slowly drain from his broad shoulders, my heart did something completely unauthorized. It skipped a beat, a massive, terrifying beat. The contract might have been a shield, but I was suddenly very aware that I was standing directly in the line of fire. Noah as Survival Diary page 42. Rule 4. Beware of individuals with sunny smiles and Harvard degrees. They are either marketing geniuses or they are actively trying to steal your fake billionaire boyfriend. Stay vigilant. The illusion of my safe, highly compensated bubble shattered on a mundane Tuesday afternoon with the arrival of Carter Sterling. Carter was exactly what my original novel described: a 23-year-old marketing prodigy with a golden retriever personality, perfect teeth, and an Ivy League pedigree that practically glowed in the dark. He was the actual intended male lead of Wall Street Overlord. When HR introduced him to the executive floor, the air seemed to literally sparkle around him. He possessed this blinding, optimistic aura that was the exact narrative foil to Julian S. icy, ruthless demeanor. My salted fish instincts went into absolute overdrive. The plot was attempting to aggressively correct itself. According to the original storyline, Carter's brilliant marketing strategies and unwavering sunshine-like resilience were supposed to gradually melt the Overlord's frozen heart. I was just the tragic cannon fodder who spilled coffee. The fact that I was currently occupying the narrative space of Julian's live-in boyfriend and organic sleep aid was a massive universe-breaking glitch. Panic set in. If the universe was correcting itself, I needed to get out of the blast radius before I got annihilated. My retreat was immediate and highly strategic. I stopped lingering in Julian's office after hours. When he knocked on my door in the penthouse at 2 a.m., I cited severe gastrointestinal distress and locked the deadbolt. During our public outings, I maintained a stiff professional distance, ensuring there was at least a respectable 6 inches of air between our shoulders at all times. The immediate result was catastrophic for the 80th floor. Without his human-weighted blanket, Julian S. Insomnia returned with a vengeance. His pristine, terrifying aura doubled in intensity. Executive meetings became absolute bloodbaths. The symmetry of his pens became violently exact. Every time I handed him a file, his piercing gray-green eyes would lock onto me, burning with a silent, freezing question that I cowardly refused to answer. Meanwhile, Carter was everywhere. He constantly hovered near the executive suite, tablet in hand, flashing his brilliant smile. He always seemed to pop up whenever Julian and I were in the same room. I'd catch Carter staring at us, his smartphone raised slightly, his eyes wide and practically vibrating with an intense, unreadable emotion. He is smitten, I thought miserably, hearing the faint sound of a camera shutter from Carter's direction. He is taking pictures of Julian out of absolute devotion. It is over for me. I decided the most honorable and safe thing to do was to facilitate their destined romance and gracefully bow out. The perfect opportunity presented itself during the Vance Empire's annual high-profile Halloween charity masquerade. The event was held in a sprawling Gothic-style ballroom in Midtown Manhattan. I was dressed in a simple low-effort phantom mask and a black suit. Julian naturally wore a bespoke dark suit with an ornate silver half mask that made him look like a literal demon king who had just conquered a small European country. Carter was there too, dressed as a vintage aviator, looking annoyingly heroic and bright. I spent the first hour of the party strategically maneuvering through the crowd, trying to herd Carter in Julian S.'s direction like a highly anxious sheepdog. Finally, I managed to corner them both near the towering champagne pyramid. "Mr. Vance," I said, my voice artificially bright and completely strained. "Have you heard Carter S. new Q4 demographic integration pitch? It S. brilliant, absolutely brilliant. You two should really discuss it, in depth, completely alone." Julian stared at me. The ambient temperature around him seemed to plummet by 20 degrees. Behind his silver mask, his eyes were stormy cold and incredibly dangerous. Carter, totally oblivious to the lethal atmosphere, beamed and eagerly opened his mouth to speak. "Actually, I was just thinking that the dynamic between you two is incredibly—" "I'll leave you to it," I interrupted loudly. I shoved my half-empty champagne flute into a passing waiter's tray and practically sprinted toward the nearest exit, desperate to escape the gravitational pull of the main characters. I pushed through a heavy steel door, stumbling into the quiet, dimly lit emergency stairwell. The heavy thumping of the ballroom bass was instantly muted. I leaned against the cool concrete wall, letting out a long, shaky breath, adjusting my mask. I did it. I had pushed the plot back on track. I was safe. So why did my chest feel like it was actively caving in? Why did I want to cry? The heavy steel door suddenly flew open with a violent crash that echoed up the concrete shaft. I jumped out of my skin. Julian stood in the doorway, his chest heaving slightly, the silver mask pushed up into his dark hair. He looked furious. Not the cold, calculating corporate fury I was used to, but a raw, unhinged anger that pinned me completely to the spot. He stepped into the stairwell, letting the heavy door slam shut behind him, sealing us in the dim, flickering light. "Oh, Julian," I stammered instinctively, taking a step back until my shoulders hit the cold concrete. "Shouldn't you be with Carter?" Julian crossed the space between us in 2 massive strides. Before I could process his movement, his hand slammed against the concrete wall on either side of my head, effectively caging me in. His towering frame blocked out the exit. The intoxicating scent of sandalwood and pure, undiluted rage washed over me. "Stop!" Julian growled, his voice a low, rough vibration that made my knees weak. "Stop what?" I whispered, my heart hammering a frantic rhythm against my ribs. He leaned in so close I could feel the heat of his breath against my jaw. "Stop pushing me away. Stop treating me like a disease." And most importantly, he added, his voice dropping to a dangerous, desperate whisper, "Stop trying to hand me over to someone else. Are you actively trying to drive me insane, Noah?" I stared up at him, my brain completely short-circuiting. The Overlord wasn't supposed to act like this. He was supposed to fall for the Golden Boy. "But he's Carter," I mumbled incoherently, my hands hovering awkwardly between us. "He's perfect for you. I'm just a salted fish. I don't belong in this script. I don't want perfect, and I don't care about any script." Julian gritted out, closing his eyes for a brief second, a flicker of raw exhaustion crossing his features. He dropped his head, resting his forehead heavily against my shoulder, exactly like he did on the nights the insomnia won. "I just want my peace back. I want you back." In the quiet isolation of the stairwell, as I hesitantly raised my hands to grip the lapels of his suit, my carefully constructed walls began to spectacularly collapse. Noah S. Survival Diary, page 58. Rule 5. Never under any circumstances consume more than 2 dry martinis in the presence of a ruthless capitalist. Loose lips sink ships, and in my case, they completely obliterate fake dating contracts. The aftermath of the stairwell incident was a suffocatingly thick tension that followed us everywhere. Julian hadn't fired me. He hadn't pushed me away. Instead, his gaze had become heavier, tracking my every movement with a dark, territorial intensity that made my skin prickle. I was walking on a tightrope, desperately trying to balance my lingering fear of the original plot with the terrifying realization that my heart was utterly, hopelessly compromised. This fragile balance was violently tested at the Vance Empire's most prestigious event of the year, the annual charity gala at the Metropolitan Museum of Art. The venue was breathtaking, dripping with opulent floral arrangements and billionaire attendees. I was poured into a custom Tom Ford tuxedo that cost more than my entire existence. But despite the armor of expensive fabric, I felt entirely exposed. Julian was pulled into a conversation with the mayor, leaving me momentarily stranded near a towering ice sculpture. That was when Arthur Vance, Julian S. uncle, and the most venomous snake on the board of directors slithered over to me. "Mr. Hayes." Arthur purred, swirling an amber liquid in his crystal glass. His eyes raked over me with unconcealed disgust. Enjoying the temporary luxury, I must say Julian S.P.R. stunts usually have a bit more pedigree. It is fascinating watching a stray dog try to dine at the master's table. My grip tightened on my champagne flute. The original Noah, the ambitious, status-obsessed cannon fodder, would have crumbled under this humiliation, but I was a salted fish. I honestly didn't care about his elitist garbage. What I did care about was the sudden, overwhelming wave of exhaustion that hit me. The constant anxiety of waiting for the plot to correct itself, the fear of Carter eventually taking my place, the crushing weight of Arthur S.'s reminder that I was just a temporary glitch in Julian S. world. To cope, I flagged down a passing waiter and swapped my champagne for a dry martini, then another, and perhaps a third. By the time Julian extracted himself from the mayor and found me, I was pleasantly numb. but my internal filter was completely disabled. Julian S.'s sharp eyes immediately assessed my flushed face and the empty glasses on the nearby table. His expression darkened. Before he could speak, Arthur scoffed. "Julian, you really should keep your charity cases on a tighter leash." Arthur sneered. The temperature in a 5-foot radius plummeted to absolute zero. Julian didn't raise his voice. He didn't even blink. He simply turned to his uncle with a look so lethally cold that Arthur actually took a physical step back. "Arthur," Julian said, his voice a silken blade, "if you ever speak to my partner in that tone again, I will personally ensure your shares are liquidated, your assets frozen, and your name erased from this family's trust. Do you understand?" Arthur turned an ugly shade of red, sputtering for words before practically fleeing toward the safety of the main ballroom. Julian didn't look triumphant. He looked furious. He gripped my wrist gently but firmly. "We're leaving now." He bypassed the grand staircase, entirely pulling me through a discreet staff corridor that led to a secluded moonlit balcony overlooking Central Park. The cool autumn air hit my face, doing absolutely nothing to clear the alcohol-induced fog in my brain. Julian let go of my wrist, running a hand through his perfectly styled hair in a rare display of frustration. "What were you thinking, Noah? You know Arthur is actively looking for weaknesses." "I am the weakness," I blurted out. Julian froze. "What?" The dam broke. The alcohol stripped away my salted fish defenses, leaving only raw, pathetic vulnerability. "I'm just the cannon fodder, Julian. I'm a mistake. I don't belong in this script. You're supposed to be with Carter. He has the pedigree. He has the brilliant ideas. He's the golden boy. I'm just a guy who sleeps on your couch." Tears, hot and embarrassing, pricked the corners of my eyes. I hated myself for crying. I hated that I cared so much. "You're going to wake up one day, and the script will fix itself," I rambled, my voice breaking. "You'll realize I'm useless, and you'll leave me behind. So why can't you just let me go now before it actually kills me?" Julian stared at me, his chest rising and falling heavily. The anger vanished from his features, replaced by a profound, agonizing realization. He finally saw past the lazy, unbothered facade. He saw the terrified, insecure boy hiding beneath it. He closed the distance between us, his hands reaching up to gently cup my face. His thumbs wiped away a stray tear that had escaped down my cheek. "Noah," Julian breathed, his voice impossibly soft. "There is no script. There is no Carter. There is only you. It has only ever been you. You only kept me around because of the PR scandal." I sniffled, refusing to look him in the eyes. "Noah, look at me," Julian commanded gently. I reluctantly met his striking gray-green gaze. "Do you honestly believe I, the CEO of Vance Empire, couldn't have killed a single leaked photo at an airport?" My breath hitched. My brain struggled to process his words. "What?" I saw the passenger taking the picture. Julian confessed, a faint, self-deprecating smirk touching his lips. I could have had my security detail confiscate their phone in seconds, but I didn't. You let them post it," I gasped. I was desperate," Julian admitted, his voice dropping to a raw whisper. "You were always trying to slip away, always trying to fade into the background. I couldn't sleep without you. I couldn't function without you. When that photo was taken, I realized it was the perfect excuse. I used the board, the media, everything just to build a cage that you wouldn't want to run from." My heart pounded so hard I felt it in my throat. The ruthless overlord of Wall Street hadn't been backed into a corner by the plot. He had manipulated the plot to trap me, because he needed me. "I don't want a perfect golden boy," Julian murmured, stepping so close his chest brushed against mine. "I want my chaotic, lazy, perfect salted fish. Please, Noah, stop running. He didn't ask for permission this time, and I didn't want him to." I threw my arms around his neck, just as his lips crashed down on mine. The kiss was desperate bruising and tasted like expensive champagne and undeniable truth. All my fears, all my anxieties about original novels and cannon fodder destinies melted away in the intoxicating heat of his mouth. We stumbled backward until my back hit the stone balustrade. Julian's hands were everywhere, possessive and grounding, completely shattering the terms of our pristine fake contract. When we finally broke apart, gasping for air in the cool night, Julian rested his forehead against mine. He smiled, a genuine, breathtaking sight. "Let's go home," he whispered. We didn't sneak out the back. Julian Vance, the notoriously private, ice-cold billionaire, walked me directly out the front doors of the Met. As the paparazzi descended upon us like a swarm of vultures' cameras flashing blindly in the dark, Julian didn't shield his face. Instead, he wrapped a protective arm around my waist, pulled me flush against his side, and kissed me again, right there on the red carpet. It wasn't a PR stunt. It wasn't a contractual obligation. It was a declaration of war against anyone who dared to question my place by his side. Noah as Survival Diary page 80, Rule 6. Assaulted fish's primary defense mechanism is playing dead. But if you push that fish into a corner and threaten the overlord who feeds it, prepare for a tsunami. The pristine bubble of our newfound reality lasted exactly 36 hours. Monday morning hit the 80th floor like a Category 5 hurricane. I was sitting on the sofa in Julian's office sipping an outrageously expensive matcha latte while Julian was reviewing a merger document at his desk. The atmosphere was peaceful, domestic even. Then the frosted glass doors burst open. Rebecca, the head of PR, marched in looking paler than a ghost. Felix, the lead legal counsel, was right behind her, his jaw clenched tight enough to crack his own teeth. "We have a catastrophic breach," Rebecca announced, her voice devoid of its usual professional calm. She slammed a tablet onto Julian's desk. Internal emails were hacked over the weekend. The entirety of the non-disclosure and public relations partnership agreement has been leaked to the press. My stomach plummeted directly into the Earth's core. I slowly stood up, abandoning my latte. "Arthur," Julian said flatly, not making it a question. He sent it anonymously to the Wall Street Journal, Financial Times, and every major gossip blog in the hemisphere. Felix confirmed grimly. "The narrative they're pushing is that you deliberately fabricated a fake romance to humanize your image and artificially inflate Vance Empire's Q3 stock prices. They are accusing you of severe market manipulation. The stock has already plummeted 9% in pre-market trading." Arthur has called an emergency board meeting for noon, Rebecca added, rubbing her temples. "He is pushing for a vote of no confidence to oust you as CEO. The lobby is currently swarming with reporters demanding a statement." In the original novel, this was exactly the kind of career-ending, life-ruining scandal that forced the cannon fodder to flee the country in disgrace. The invisible hand of the plot was trying to drag me back to my predetermined doom. My survival instincts screamed at me to run to pack a bag and disappear before the FBI got involved. Julian slowly closed his laptop. He didn't look panicked. He looked resigned. "Felix, draft my temporary leave of absence," Julian commanded quietly. "Rebecca, prepare a statement. I will take full responsibility for the contract. You will emphasize that Noah Hayes was a junior employee coerced into this arrangement under threat of termination. Shield him completely from any legal or public fallout." I froze. He was sacrificing his empire, his entire life's work, just to make sure I could walk away unharmed. "Julian, no." I stepped forward, my voice trembling. "You can't just surrender to Arthur." Julian looked at me, his eyes softening with a heartbreaking, melancholic tenderness. "I built a cage to trap you, Noah. This is the consequence. I will not let you go down with my ship." He walked past me, heading for the door to face the executioners in the boardroom. As the heavy glass door clicked shut, the panic inside me abruptly evaporated, replaced by a blinding white-hot fury. Arthur Vance wanted to play the villain fine, but he clearly didn't know he was dealing with someone who had read the entire script. I didn't run to the elevator. I sprinted down the hallway toward the marketing department. I found Carter Sterling sitting at his desk. Instead of looking triumphant that his supposed rival was going down, the Golden Boy was furiously typing on his keyboard, looking close to tears. "It's a conspiracy," Carter was muttering angrily to his monitor. "They are trying to sabotage true love. I know how they look at each other. That contract is irrelevant." "Carter!" I slammed my hands on his desk, startling him so badly he nearly dropped his tablet. "Are you done writing fan fiction in your head? Because I need your help to save Julian." Carter's eyes widened, shining with sudden heroic determination. "Tell me what to do." "I need you to bypass the company firewalls and trace a series of offshore accounts." I ordered, my mind racing through the chapters of the novel I had memorized. "Arthur thinks he's untouchable, but he's sloppy. Search the Cayman Island subsidiaries. Look for a shell corporation called Apex Dynamics. He has been quietly embezzling Vance Empire funds through their real estate acquisitions for 3 years." Carter didn't question how a lazy administrative assistant knew about highly classified, top-secret offshore embezzlement schemes. His fingers simply flew across the keyboard with terrifying, prodigious speed. 10 minutes later, he hit the enter key with a resounding sharp sound. "I got him." Carter breathed his screen, reflecting dozens of highlighted illegal wire transfers directly linking Arthur to Apex Dynamics. "I'm compiling the dossier and sending it to your phone now." I grabbed my phone. "Carter, you are a terrifyingly brilliant nerd, and I owe you my life." "Just save the ship," Carter yelled enthusiastically as I ran back toward the elevators. The press conference was being held in the grand lobby. Flashbulbs strobed like a lightning storm as Julian stood behind the podium. He looked incredibly isolated, a solitary king about to step down from his throne. Arthur stood a few feet away, practically vibrating with smug, victorious glee. "Ladies and gentlemen," Julian spoke into the microphones, his voice echoing in the cavernous marble hall. "Regarding the documents leaked this morning." "He's right," I shouted, bursting through the crowd of reporters. The entire room went dead silent. Hundreds of camera lenses swiveled toward me. Julian's eyes widen in rare, undisguised shock. "Noah, what are you doing?" his gaze screamed. I ignored the cameras. I ignored Arthur's sudden scowl. I walked directly up to the podium, standing shoulder to shoulder with the overlord of Wall Street. "The contract is entirely real," I announced into the microphone. A collective gasp rippled through the press corps. 6 weeks ago, I signed a piece of paper agreeing to pretend to be Julian Vance's partner. Arthur chuckled darkly. At least the boy has the sense to confess to the fraud. "It wasn't fraud, it was a decoy." I countered, my voice steady, projecting a confidence I didn't know I possessed. "The contract was a calculated distraction. We needed the media looking at my terrible wardrobe and our fake dates so they wouldn't notice what Julian was actually doing, quietly investigating a massive internal embezzlement ring." I pulled out my phone and connected it to the lobby's massive presentation screen via Bluetooth. With a push of a button, dozens of financial records, wire transfers, and Arthur Vance's forged signatures appeared on the 40-foot screen for every reporter and SEC official in the room to see. Arthur Vance has siphoned over $40 million from this company into a shell corporation named Apex Dynamics, I declared, staring directly at the suddenly pale, sweating older man. "The documents have already been forwarded to the FBI and the Securities and Exchange Commission." Pandemonium erupted. Reporters abandoned Julian entirely, swarming Arthur, who was stammering incoherently, trying to back away toward the exits. I turned off the microphone. The adrenaline was leaving my body, leaving my knees feeling a bit like jelly. Julian stared at me, completely speechless. He looked at the chaos, then back at me, his striking gray-green eyes filled with absolute overwhelming awe. "A decoy," Julian murmured, stepping close enough that our arms brushed. "Where did you get those files?" "I'm a very resourceful salted fish," I whispered back, a shaky smile forming on my lips. A brave reporter shoved a microphone past the security line. "Mr. Hayes, if the contract was just a cover, what is the actual nature of your relationship with Mr. Vance?" I looked up at Julian. I thought about the terrified cannon fodder I was supposed to be. I thought about the cold, ruthless CEO he was supposed to be. Then I reached out and grabbed him by the lapels of his suit. "The contract was fake," I said clearly to the cameras before looking back into Julian's eyes. "But he cured my insomnia. And I love him. There's nothing fake about that." I didn't wait for the media's reaction. I pulled Julian down and kissed him right there in the middle of the lobby, surrounded by the ruins of the original plot. Noah's Survival Diary Final Page. Rule 7. Do not attempt to fight the plot. Instead, effortlessly hijack the narrative, conquer the villain, and successfully train the ruthless Wall Street overlord to bring you breakfast in bed. A supreme salted fish doesn't run from fate, he makes fate work for him. It had been exactly 3 months since I spectacularly blew up the original storyline of Wall Street Overlord in the middle of the Vance Empire Grand Lobby. The aftermath was a glorious, unprecedented corporate bloodbath. Arthur Vance and his elite cronies were currently dealing with multiple federal indictments and the unyielding wrath of the Securities and Exchange Commission. The board of directors, thoroughly terrified by Julian's absolute dominance and my apparently lethal hidden strategic genius, unanimously ceased all their plotting. Vance Empire's stock had skyrocketed to an absolute all-time high, and Carter Sterling, the original male lead, was thriving. Without the heavy burden of having to melt an icy CEO's frozen heart, Carter had poured all of his golden retriever energy into his true passions, aggressive corporate marketing, and terrifyingly creative writing. He was officially promoted to marketing director. Just last week, he proudly cornered me by the executive espresso machine and handed me a leather-bound 300-page manuscript. It was a fiercely romantic, highly embellished fan fiction based entirely on Julian and me. I threatened to throw it in the East River, but I secretly kept it in my desk drawer because the prose was actually quite gripping. As for me, the grand orchestrator of Wall Street's biggest scandal of the decade, Noah, wake up. A low, impossibly warm voice vibrated against my ear, accompanied by the gentle, deliberate nip of teeth against my earlobe. I groaned, pulling the thick, ridiculously expensive duvet completely over my head to block out the intrusion. No, the Overlord's secret anchor is currently out of office. Please leave a message after the beep. A soft, deep chuckle filled the quiet room. The duvet was mercilessly pulled down, exposing my face to the crisp, bright light of a snowy Manhattan Sunday morning. I cracked one eye open resentfully. Julian Vance was sitting on the edge of our massive custom bed. He wasn't wearing his terrifying three-piece corporate armor. Instead, he wore soft gray sweatpants and a dark fitted cashmere sweater that made him look obscenely domestic. His dark hair was comfortably messy, and his striking gray-green eyes, once completely devoid of any warmth, were currently looking at me with such profound, overwhelming affection that it still occasionally made my breath catch. "It is 11 in the morning," Julian stated casually, running a warm hand through my completely disheveled hair. "And while I deeply admire your unwavering commitment to doing absolutely nothing, I have made coffee and pancakes." My stomach gave a sudden traitorous rumble. I let out a dramatic, long-suffering sigh and slowly rolled over, resting my chin heavily on Julian's thigh. "You are actively ruining my salted fish lifestyle with your aggressive culinary competency." Julian smirked, his thumb gently tracing the line of my jaw. "I recall you specifically announcing to national television that you were a very resourceful fish. Surely you can resourcefully migrate to the dining table." "Carry me," I demanded shamelessly, closing my eyes again. "Absolutely not," Julian replied smoothly. A second later, strong arms slid beneath my knees and my back, effortlessly lifting me from the mattress. I immediately wrapped my arms around his neck, burying my face into the crook of his shoulder, breathing in the familiar grounding scent of sandalwood and morning coffee. "You're spoiling the fearsome ghost strategist," I mumbled lazily against his collarbone as he carried me out of the bedroom. That was arguably the funniest part of the last 3 months. The financial media had gone absolutely feral, trying to uncover the true identity of the genius who had traced Arthur S. Complex offshore shell corporations in 10 minutes. They dubbed this mysterious, untouchable entity the Ghost Strategist. Prominent financial blogs speculated that Julian had hired an elite team of ex-CIA cyber analysts. Wall Street executives were completely terrified of this invisible, omnipotent force. If only they knew the omnipotent force was currently wearing oversized dinosaur pajamas and actively refusing to walk to the kitchen. Julian set me down gently on the plush bar stool at the marble kitchen island. A plate of perfectly golden pancakes and a steaming mug of my favorite dark roast were waiting for me. "Eat," Julian commanded, gently taking the seat next to me with his own black coffee. I picked up my fork, but before taking a bite, I paused, turning to fully look at the man beside me. The dark, exhausted shadows that used to permanently live beneath his eyes were completely gone. The rigid defensive tension in his broad shoulders had entirely melted away. He didn't look like a ruthless capitalist machine anymore. He looked peaceful. He looked profoundly happy. I thought back to my very first day in this bizarre world, waking up in that dusty file room, terrified of the plot, desperate to be totally invisible. I had foolishly believed that staying out of the spotlight and hiding in the shadows was the only way to survive. But looking at Julian now, I realized I had been completely wrong. True safety wasn't about hiding in the dark. It was about finding the person who made the blinding light worth standing in. I didn't need to be invisible anymore because the man sitting next to me would happily burn the entire world down before letting anyone harm me. "What is it?" Julian asked softly, catching my intense gaze. A tiny frown line appeared between his brows. "Are the pancakes burned?" "No." I smiled broadly, leaning over to press a soft, lingering kiss to his lips. "I was just thinking about how incredibly much I love you." Julian's eyes softened instantly, the icy overlord vanishing entirely. He reached out his large hand, wrapping gently around the back of my neck, pulling me in for a much deeper kiss that tasted like rich coffee an absolute, undeniable devotion. "Ah, I love you too," Julian murmured against my lips, his voice slightly rough. "Now eat your breakfast, because I am officially hiring you as my chief consultant on Monday morning, and you need your energy." I froze instantly, the piece of pancake hovering halfway to my mouth. "Wait, what? No, absolutely not. I completely refuse. I am a salted fish. I have a hard-earned reputation to maintain." Julian laughed, a rich, beautiful, uninhibited sound that echoed freely through the sunlit penthouse, completely drowning out the noise of the city far below. Maybe I had accidentally turned from a lazy salted fish into a formidable dragon. But as I took a bite of the perfect pancake and watched the ruthless overlord of Wall Street look at me like I personally hung the moon and stars, I decided one thing was absolutely certain. This dragon was definitely going to take a very long nap immediately after breakfast.